Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, Pigskin Addicts. Back again with another video. So I wanted to jump straight into what we seen yesterday from the Chargers. They squeaked out a very close win against the Tennessee Titans, 17-14. I can really pick apart this game, but I'm not going to do that. Beggars can't be choosers, and as Charger fans, we are most certainly beggars, and I'll take the win any way we can get it. So I am very happy with that. But I wanted to focus on the defense, right? And whether or not they're turning the corner. These past two games have been very refreshing for us as Charger fans. This defense has really underachieved all season long. We've known that, and the numbers bear that out. But these past two games, they have really, I think, turned a corner. So I wanted to jump into the numbers, and, pretty much compare that to the eye test, right? What we are seeing. So both these games against Tennessee and Miami defensively have been great. These have been the best defensive performances so far of the 2022 season. Now, I think the biggest thing, and I'm going to go over some numbers here, but I think the biggest thing that I want to focus on is game planning, right? I think that has been the number one most important thing when it comes to these defensive performances. Game planning is the number one thing that you can look at. It's not so much the play of the players. They are pretty consistent most of the time. Most of the guys are pretty consistent. I think just putting them in more advantageous situations to have them succeed, I think that's been the biggest key. So the Chargers gave up a total of 284 yards against the Titans. And last week against Miami, they gave up a total of 219 yards against the Miami Dolphins. Now, both of those are really good performances, obviously under 300 yards. But when you dive deeper into the numbers, you can understand why the Chargers were having some of the successes that they were having. Now, against Miami last week, when you average it out, Miami ran, I believe it was 49 plays. They averaged 4.4 yards per play, and Tennessee yesterday averaged 4.9 yards per play. So when you're looking at yards per play, that is a big indication of how well your defense is playing, right? How consistent your defense is playing, and you're limiting the number of big plays, right? Limiting the number of big plays in the passing game and also on the ground. So the Chargers have done a really good job of that the past 2 weeks, and those numbers bear that out. Now, when you're looking at what the Chargers obviously struggle with, right, it's the run game. The run game has always been something the Chargers have struggled with in the Brandon Staley era. But when you look at last week against Miami, 92 rushing yards, and then you look yesterday against Tennessee, 127 rushing yards. Those are good numbers for a Chargers defense that has averaged, almost 5.6 yards per carry pretty much throughout the season. Coming into the Miami game, I think they were giving up about 151 yards a game on the ground. So those numbers are well under their season averages as far as yards given up on the ground. So that too has been a very major reason why this defense is able to make a few more stops, and this is the reason why the defense has looked better just overall. Now, I think one of the more underrated defensive stats when it comes to defenses all around the NFL is the opponent's passer rating, right? That kind of paints a picture of the game that the quarterback had, right? The opposing quarterback. So last week, we already went over it, right? We already know Tua was pretty bad against the Chargers. His passer rating was a 65.3. That's very bad. The highest and the most perfect passer rating you can get is a 158.3. So Tua almost 100 points under that. We know he was pretty bad, right? But then you look at Ryan Tannehill yesterday, and everything, all things considered, his injury, the ankle injury that he re-aggravated in the first quarter, his passer rating was a 71.2. So that means the Chargers defense is not letting any quarterbacks, specifically the past 2 weeks, not letting them have career days, not letting them have big days, and they are defending things a lot better, right? So these quarterbacks are not able to get off. They're not able to put up a bunch of points. They're not able to really push the ball down the field. And this basically means that there's no open receivers down the field, right? These quarterbacks are going to have to make plays if they want to complete passes down the field. And a big shout out to Breeden Fehoko. He is a big reason why the Chargers are a lot better in the run game. He has become a full-time starter with all of the defensive line injuries, and he has really stepped up, and he's been worth his weight in gold. He has been a monster. Every Tuesday when you watch the tape, he comes up and he makes plays. He shows up on tape several times a game. He makes a lot of plays. They can't block him. He is the only guy on the roster who is a traditional 3-4 nose tackle, right? He can handle the double teams. He does a good job. He eats up a lot of space, and he allows other guys to come in, clean up, and limit other teams to very, very, very minimal gains on the ground. So he has been a very, very, very crucial piece to the Chargers being a lot more improved in the run game in the past couple of weeks. Now, another aspect of this, and I don't want this to seem like I am taking shots at Derwin James or I am being negative towards him, but the pass defense has been better over the past 2 weeks. Derwin James has not been in the lineup, and I think the pass defense, the reason you can say that they have been better is because they've had to be, right? Brandon Staley has had to take a more traditional approach to his defensive preparation without Derwin James. And I've talked about this in a couple of post-game live streams. Derwin James moving all over the field, kind of being the Swiss Army knife, coming up playing a linebacker spot, coming up playing outside linebacker, lining up in the, a blitzing spot, right? He's kind of moved all over the field, but without him in the lineup, it has forced Brandon Staley to use Alohi Gilman and Nasir Adderley in more traditional roles as safeties. And both of those guys have been playing really well the past couple of weeks. Nasir Adderley had a pretty big interception yesterday. He drove on the ball and was able to pick it off. Now, I think, obviously the Chargers are better with Derwin James on the field, but not having the guy who can clean up messes is forcing Brandon Staley to call more traditional defensive plays, right? Preparing for a more traditional style of defense. And I think it's been working. I honestly think it's been working. It worked very well against Miami last week, and it continued this week against Tennessee. So I expect to see more of this going forward. Now it just depends on how long Derwin James is going to be out. There's no word yet. There's really no timetable for his return, and I think there doesn't really need to be a timetable for his return. As long as these guys keep playing at a high level, the Chargers will be fine on the back end. The communication has been pretty good as well, too. You can also credit Michael Davis as well. He's been playing really well. Sante Samuel Jr., Jasir Taylor, Bryce Callahan. Those guys have been pretty damn good. So, again, this is not a shot at Derwin James, but the Chargers have been playing better on the back end without him because they have had to, right? You can't really take as many chances out there now, right? You want to play your safeties in a more traditional role. You want to have, both of those guys back there, whether it's too high, right? Whether it's man-to-man, whatever. You want to have a more traditional look to your defensive backfield, and that's what the Chargers have been doing. They have been very, very good. They have looked a little bit more traditional, and I think it is doing this defense some good because, they have been responding. The numbers look good, and the eye test also bears that out. So I expect that to continue going forward these next 3 weeks to finish out the season. Now, the number one thing that the Chargers have done the best these past 2 weeks, this goes away from pretty much all of the other numbers. Everything that I mentioned obviously is important, but this is the most important thing. They have been much better on third down. This was obviously a huge issue. You can have whoever you want to on defense, right? You can have the best pass rushers in the world. You can have the best linebackers. You can have the best corners. It really doesn't matter if you can't get off the field on third down, right? 3rd and 5 plus, you have to get off the field. You have to limit teams, right? You have to be able to limit them on third down, right? Third down is primarily a passing down. So that means you have to be able to get to the quarterback. You have to put some pressure on him, right? Even if you're not getting sacks, you want to be able to move a quarterback off of his mark, right? You want to make him inaccurate as you possibly can. And the Chargers have done a good job of that. They obviously did a good job with Tua, and I think they did a pretty good job with Ryan Tannehill yesterday as well, too. I thought that they played very well. I thought the defensive line started to generate some pressure after, the second, third quarter. They played really well, but that was the major key, is getting off the field on third down. You cannot have a successful defense. You cannot have a successful team in general if your defense cannot get off the field on third down. You have to get off the field on third down. Now, granted, Tennessee has the most 3 and outs in all of football. I get it. I understand it. But what the Chargers were able to do yesterday, it develops some good habits and some good stuff that I want to see going forward. I want to see that out of the Chargers going forward. I want to see good habits on defense. I want to see good sound defense and, just some fundamental stuff, right? You don't need to do anything crazy. Keep everything in front of you, tackle well, and just do, the bare minimum fundamental stuff, right? The offense, Justin Herbert, they can handle a lot, but this defense they have to be able to get stops on third down. And they have been able to do that the past couple of weeks. So I have, been really impressed with what the Chargers have been able to do defensively the past couple of weeks. Got to give Brandon Staley credit, right? I've come on here, I've ripped him for some bad decisions that I've thought that he has made in the past, but I had to give him credit, right? When he's doing his job and he's locked in and he has his team prepared to play on defense, for a couple of weeks in a row, you can only really pat him on the back and say, hey, good job. Now, I'm not going to say that, he is, the best coach in the league now, or that he's somebody that the Chargers need to go with long term, right? I think he still has a lot to prove, but this is a good start. This is definitely a good start. I expect the Chargers to, play pretty much like this the remainder of the season. And, if they don't, then obviously it will be a problem. But there's no reason for them not to, right? To me, it seems like they have turned a corner. And if they have really, really turned a corner, it will be, shown to us the next 3 games. So I expect the Chargers to continue playing good, sound defense. And, hopefully we can see a lot more wins. But that is all I got for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me yesterday in my post-game live stream. I really appreciate all of the interaction, all the engagement. Really, really appreciate you guys. Shout out to all my new subscribers. Really, really appreciate you guys. Shout out to all my old subscribers as well, too. Thank you guys for rocking with me for so long. Really, really appreciate it. I'll be back again tomorrow with more content. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to smash that like button on your way out as well, too. But until next time,